back, fellow dissidents. Seems as though the authoritarian strike continues. Mayor Bill Deblasio 2 weeks ago said he would implement vaccine passports. Well, he has done so. They're calling it the Key to New York Act. Okay, so it was going to be indoor dining, gyms, and indoor entertainment venues. It has now stretched across to basically any institution in the city. I mean, we're talking about nightclubs, pools, everything. Everything. There's a list. You can go on his Twitter, and he posted literally venues. There's 3 categories, which is indoor dining, gyms, and venues. And it's essentially everything. Every private company will have to adopt this fascistic policy, okay? And he says, which should automatically throw up red flags. When the government says they're there to help you, you should run the other way, right? And he says this is going to protect people, and it will be more incentive for other people to get vaccines. This is a human rights violation. There was an article in the Daily Mail. There's a woman in New York City who hung up a sign in her diner. It's a restaurant of some sort. I forget the name, but she hung up a sign that said she will not discriminate based on race, gender, sex, vaccination, or unvaccination. And that's exactly what this is. It's a human rights violation. They're trying to make the other, and they have done so successfully. We have political zealots all over the place. You got one tribe who says you have to have it, and then you have another tribe who says I will not do it no matter what. Rather than just talking to your doctor and figuring out what's best for you. Now, I understand the skepticism. I do. I certainly do. I have a full vaccination chart. As you know, from being young all the way till now, I haven't missed a vaccination. But these are your typical vaccinations. This is not a vaccination. And sure, I won't even speak on the vaccination itself. I mean, it's not the same as other vaccines. It is completely different. And now, the United States is going to advise for boosters after 8 months of vaccination. So, 6 months ago, when they were talking about the vaccine, it was rolled out as if, this is the key to it all. This is the key to it all. We need this. And now, as we all suspected, the goalposts have moved again, as they have with everything. The government never tells you the truth unless they absolutely have to. And now they absolutely have to. After 8 months, they are going to advise you to get boosters, and it's not going to change. It's going to continue this way. Okay? And it's a human rights violation. There's already 56% of New York that has been vaccinated. It seems as though the people who have chose to get vaccinated or have had the opportunity to have done so. The people who are not vaccinated at this point, they do not want to be vaccinated. And now, like I said in the last one, this is literal fascism. And now it's implemented by law, right? By law. This is an edict. All of these powers are held underneath emergency executive orders. It's fiat power. And it's just one city, sure. But it's even as arbitrary. There's no medical exemptions, by the way. So you're either vaccinated or you're not vaccinated, right? And it's what are the people supposed to do? People who have MS, the autoimmune diseases, and their doctors have told them no. Well, Tim Pool actually looked into this. He did a little bit of journalism. Imagine that, right? So he checked into this. He called the state hotline and the state agency to find out the actual state information, and they said no, absolutely not. No medical exemptions. Sorry. You are no longer a first-class citizen. You are the other. But it just to show you how far they can push the bureaucratic inefficiency as which comes with the state, they did offer exemptions. But it's for non-residents. So if you're a non-resident performer who doesn't hold a regular job at a venue there, you can come in as long as you wear a mask. or if you're a non-resident athlete, you can come in so long as you're social distancing or wearing masks inside of 6 feet. This literally proves my entire argument about why we don't need the state. I mean, it's completely inefficient and bureaucratic, and it tends toward dictatorial. I mean, how is it that they have this power and they yield it for your protection, and they roll it out nice and slow? You know, it's only going to be indoor dining, and it's an emergency, and it's only going to be these few places. And then when they sign it into law, it's literal dictatorship. This is what I say, and you have to do it. And, you know, it's signed into law as of right now. As of August 17th, in New York City, it is law. But there's a provision in there that says that the inspections won't start until the 13th. So, he's giving you a little bit of head time. Not even a month. Not even a month. For you to comply. This is, you know, and they are going to, it's going to be regulated. They said there's city agencies will be doing inspections. You have to have a written protocol that needs to be produced upon inspection. At what point do we say this is for our protection? It sounds like it's for political protection. You have a narrative, you have an initiative, and you will not take dissent. And this is becoming all too common. There's mask mandates happening. It's slowly rolling back all over the country. It's creeping authoritarianism. And you have one faction who says we absolutely need this. The left used to actually, well, they used to advocate as if they're, humanitarians. You can no longer call this humanitarian. Right, you know, they argue on one hand, you don't need an ID to go vote. If you're going to put my people in power, oh, by all means, step right up. But now, if you want to eat or go see a movie or go to a pool or go to a museum or any of the host things, look at Mayor Bill Deblasio's Twitter and see all of the institutions that you can't go to now. If you're going to put somebody in power for the Democrats, oh, absolutely, come right in. We don't need safe and secure elections. I don't even believe in democracy anyways. It's absurd, and this is why. But nevertheless, you do certainly need your papers, right? You need your papers to exist in civil society in New York. Unless, of course, you're a non-resident outside of the city, and then you can just come in. This is absurdity. When are people going to wake up? At what point do we stop being called Nazis because we see the parallels in our prior history in this world? If we cannot draw the historical parallels to the past, when you had to put a sign and there was the other and you had to do this and that, and at what point are we allowed to say, hold on a second, red flag, things are looking a lot like they used to? But no, this isn't the same thing. This is for you. This is for your protection. I don't believe it. I never will believe it. And this is why people are so skeptical of government these days. Because not only do they lie to you, but then when you see their open-faced lie, they say, no, that was for your protection. And it's only going to be a little bit of fiat power. I'm just going to exercise a little bit of it. So let me just sign this paper, and now you're effectively not allowed in the city. Unless it's a private establishment that allows you in otherwise. Not even an establishment. I mean like a private home. You have to be in a private residence. If you're in an establishment, or if you run an establishment, you have to enforce this power by this fiat power. And it is stretching beyond, it's like libertarians and anarchists, we warn about this kind of stuff happening all the time. And if you say anything about the government, they say, oh, that you're espousing a conspiracy and you're a lunatic. It doesn't have to be a conspiracy. It is creeping authoritarianism. It's called a standalone complex. There's a bunch of people as individuals who feel this chance to gain politically and use dictatorial fiat power, and they do so. And as a collective, it starts to be more and more authoritarian. They say, well, hey, look, this is going on all over the place. Let's just federalize this. And if you don't think that can happen, I direct you to New Zealand, who literally just locked down their entire country, the entire country, for one COVID case. Even CNN printed a headline in a facetious manner that was like, wow, whoa, one case and you're locking down? Even CNN, the state-armed propagandist, think that's like, whoa, that, at least they're thinking that's a bit fast, right? I won't attribute motive, but even CNN thinks this is absolutely ridiculous, right? And then Australia has already deployed military troops to enforce their lockdowns, and now they're advocating that the military takes over the vaccinations, and as of lately, it has surfaced their emergency powers that they established last year. It's surfacing again as they deploy troops and use more fiat power, because it has gone viral what they say they're allowed to do. It's part of their powers are they're allowed to force their way in and break into any establishment that they so choose. They are allowed to move people in any manner of directions, people or vehicles. They are allowed to direct people. They are allowed to force people to quarantine, right? And not only that, they are allowed to force people into medical examinations and testing, as well as compel information from people. And they haven't gone this far yet to where they're directing traffic and they're forcefully quarantining people, but it has surfaced to show people that it's coming. They're sending the troops out right now in Australia. And they have already delegated themselves these powers, right? And you know, when it comes to current events, things that happen, especially when it pertains to COVID, we're a few months behind Australia in their measures. And we see a little bit by little bit, and most people have been so inundated with information and propaganda, whether they think one way or the other about it, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. At this point, they just want to keep their head down and keep moving. How many people, you know, they hear more and more and more about COVID and the more and more authoritarianism and the loss of liberty, and they're just like, come on, I just want to keep going. I don't want no part of this. I don't want to be involved in politics. I just want to keep my head down and go, right? That's what they want, and it's working. They slowly take away your rights, and they slowly implement this dictatorial, fascistic edict, and people will eventually kowtow. They will bow down to it. I don't care. Just let me go in peace. You will never go in peace. Every single measure they have put in it was saying, this is what we need to do. This is it. This is what we need to do for you to be safe. And people are like, all right, that's it. I will do this. It will never stop. The more civil liberty you hand to the government, the more they take. You will not get it back. We need to stand up right now. We see it happening all over the world. And sure, people say, oh, we got a Bill of Rights. Yeah, maybe it'll protect us. Maybe. Like I've stated before, the Bill of Rights is possibly, not even, it is indefinitely the most important and best political document that has ever been created. But it failed to limit our government. If you call that a limited government, I don't want to know what a totalitarian government is in your mind. The Democrats quite regularly, and the Republicans as well, the entire establishment wipe their butts with the Constitution on a regular basis. People need to stand up. It's not a question of how much we need to give the government. It's how much we need to take. And it's as much freedom as we can. You know, in my last episode, I espoused my belief of limited government and how I didn't believe everything can be privatized. But this is like a natural reaction for me as a libertarian. As of lately, I have been, I have reached deep into the philosophy of anarchism over the past 2 years, really, but really, really heavy the last 6 months. Because my political evolution has changed over the last decade. Probably 15 years ago, I was an indoctrinated liberal. And then the Ron Paul libertarian movement happened, and I started to realize what this all was, and I started to get engaged and understand. And the further and further I go into learning about government and about philosophies that can change government, the further I go towards libertarianism. At the end of that spectrum is anarchism. And people hear anarchy and they automatically associate it with chaos because they're indoctrinated to believe so. It is a political philosophy. It is at the very end of the political libertarian spectrum. I now refer to myself as a anarcho-capitalist. I am an ANCAP. I don't believe we need limited government. It's like Lysander Spooner says, whether the Constitution failed to limit our government or granted it the power to do so, it doesn't matter. It birthed this. This authoritarianism we see was allowed to happen, maybe not because of the Constitution, but it failed to hold it back. So, I'm out here espousing my beliefs, and hopefully I can push people to see that we don't need government. There are other ways, and if you want to read, I'm not going to, deep dive on anarchist philosophy, but trust and believe there is a system of non-aggression principle. So long as you don't physically coerce or physically violate somebody else or their property, you can go on about your business. Now, obviously, the rest is a lot about application, but the further I see the tyranny go all over the world, and it slowly creeps into this country, the further I delve into how can we get more liberty. And the most amount of liberty we can get is absolute liberty. And that is anarchism in a private market world. Anarchism is a relationship. It's not a geographical location, to credit Michael Malice. Beautiful sentiment. That is absolutely right. Anarchism doesn't mean no rules. It means no rulers. Essentially, it's private and very, very local and decentralized government, but it's not actually government. Nobody can dictate what you can do, and that was supposed to be the idea of this country. Look at where we're at. How far do we have to go? How many despots do we have to deal with? If people want to espouse their ideas and talk about their egalitarian and humanitarian efforts, let them do so. At least in this country, at this point, we kind of still have freedom of speech. So go ahead, by all means, espouse how you want daddy government to save you. But that's not reality. There is no utopia in the human condition. It's absolutely absurd that we have large amounts of literature that can show you where this leads. But if you even mention any historical parallels, they call you a Nazi and they tar you with epithets. It's because they don't believe it either. Sure, maybe subconsciously, they have this idea, but they espouse it as if they believe it. They don't. It's not about being humanitarian. It's not compassion, and it's not empathy. They have a way of life, and they want to force it on you. They want to force it on all of us. We see this. This has been a global movement of authoritarianism. Now, I'm not advocating for a global conspiracy, but there has been a global internationalists who have espoused that they want a one-world government and that they want to abolish private property. And now we see, slowly but surely, if you don't follow the dictatorial fascism of the state, you will become the other. You will become the other. I have already become the other. I already am. I've always been outside of the norm. But that's because I think differently. I think for myself. I'm here to espouse these principles and show you what exactly, besides, let's leave the narrative to the side. Let's leave the narrative to the side. How can we stand on our principles and say, no, we won't stand for this? How can we get more people to understand that it's not about being conservative? It's not about voting R all the way down the ballot because Republicans are nothing but speed bumps for Democrats. And should it be time to beat the war drum, they're the first to stand up. There's essentially nobody in our Congress that is worth a damn. Sure, they espouse principles, but they're all still getting paid under the table, and it's all show. It's all theater. At what point have any of these people done anything to stop this? None have done anything. Sure, DeSantis is doing a good job to some point, but he's using it by way of government. This should be a choice. We should not need legislators and politicians to tell us that we will not be tyrannized. That is the absolute definition of craziness. We need a government which its only way of means is coercion and violence. We need that to say we won't be oppressed. It's time to wake people up. It's time that people understand that government's not the route, whether you're conservative or progressive or whatever. If you think my views are too radical, well, where do you draw the line? Where do we draw the line? Do we draw it at we're not allowed in civil society? Or do we do it at forced quarantines, as in Australia is well on their way? Where's the line? Because I haven't seen it. The Constitution, I love the staunch constitutionalists. We got to stand by our Constitution. For what? So it can decay after another 250 years? No. We need private markets and we need no government. I'll leave it there. By all means, if you enjoy this content, please like, share, subscribe. I'll catch you on the next one.